crown scapular of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. For a gift of $30 monthly, you'll also receive the booklet entitled The Catholic Church Has the Answer. All donors who give $50 monthly will also receive the 2026 Catholic Liturgical Calendar from Nelson's Gifts. Our top-level donors of $100 monthly or more will also receive a book by Dr. Scott Hahn entitled Lord Have Mercy, The Healing Power of Confession. To make a donation right now, please call 1-877-711-8500 or visit thestationofthecross.com. You can also donate through our free iCatholic Radio app on your Android and Apple mobile devices.
You're listening to the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network, WQOM Natick, WPMW Middleborough Center, WHIC Rochester, W225AR Rochester, W257ER Greece, WLOF Elma, WMTQ Elmira, WHVM Owego, WTMI Fleming, WQAG Oil City, WMIH Geneva, W221DI Erie, WGGO Salamanca, W263CZ Olean, WNEB Worcester, WESO Southbridge, W266DK Southbridge, WACE Chicopee, and around the world on iCatholic Radio.
Ask a Priest Live. Guided by the Holy Spirit and honoring the magisterial teachings of the Church. Faithful Catholic priests answering questions for believers and those seeking truth. Ask a Priest, because Father knows best. And now, your host, Jordan Pacheco.
God be praised in his angels and in his saints. Hello, everybody, listeners and viewers, all friends. Welcome back to Ask a Priest Live. I'm your host, Jordan Pacheco, host emeritus. I'm back for this week, and it is good to be back. I know some of you are probably like, yo, I thought he was on this week. Why is Rudy here? Because Rudy's better at me than this. You know, that's just a simple answer. No, just kidding. But I'm very grateful that Rudy was able to step in for me. Even though I'm back for this week, friends, we are so happy that you're here with me and Father McTeigue here on Ask a Priest Live. I'm very happy that you decided to stop on by. Let me give you an overview of a couple of things. First off, I know that we get a lot of new people coming in. I was thinking about this from the previous couple of days here for this week. And so I like to explain the rules, as some of you know. So let me tell you how it works. Hey, this show is awesome. We're going to be back to our regular scheduled programming at 12 p.m. noontime next week. So if you're new, you're trying to figure it out, we're doing a mailbag special on this hour all this week. We're answering some of our email questions, but usually you'll be able to call in or email in or send in your questions in the live chat live, and we'll get them answered for you. So if you're new, no question too big, no question too small, all done in charity. If you've been having big and small questions, you've been wanting to ask Catholic priests for years, hey friends, that is what we are here for. Also, friends, it is our fund drive. We only have a couple more days before our drive is closed. So we need all the support that you can please give us. As you know, this show, Ask a Priest Live, is very near and dear to my heart. I was very, very honored to host it for a couple of years, and I'm very happy that it's in the hands of my good friend Rudy. And I'm very grateful to be back this week to tell you all about something that really is what I love, which is, of course, our programming here at the Station of the Cross. We're grateful for all of you who've stepped up and supported, but we still have a very long way to go. So it is a dollar for dollar match this hour. That means that if you decide to donate $30, that another $30 is given to us. And so we're very appreciative of that. If you want to make sure that the lights stay on, that the radio waves keep proclaiming the fullness of the truth with clarity and charity, we're asking for your support. Hey, I got Father McTeigue on with me today, as he has been all week. And Father, I just want to commend you. You are such a trooper coming in right from your previous show. So God bless you. I mean that.
Well, we are a full-service organization here at the Society of Jesus. Thanks be to God.
Yes. The Jesuits do not play around. By the way, friends, I know so many of you are really happy that Father McTeigue is on with me all week, but what if I told you you could have your own private social monthly online live chat with Father McTeigue himself every month? We're launching something really cool. It's called Straight Answers with Father McTeigue, and this is for a very special circle of you, for all of you who pledge at our mission partner level. That's just $1 a day, $30 a month. You're going to be kind of virtually sitting across the table from Father McTeigue, so you can share your own thoughts, raise your own questions, and receive the wisdom of this excellent Jesuit priest that I've been having all week. It's been absolutely excellent. And not to mention, Father, one of the things I love about you are those mannerisms that you've picked up. You talk about Saint Typical typicals and the typical palians. I can't remember what you say. You have like a whole
Typicalians.
That's
yes,
it.
Typicalians. That's it. Yes.
I am hoping that you make a book of them someday, or maybe like a calendar, and so I can like get a word of the day or something, you know.
Well, I've had students for years say they want to put together an anthology called The Quotable Father McTeigue. But
I don't know. That's good. I would make that coffee table. James, put a pencil in right there. We're gonna find all the pictures we can of you, Father, or AI generate some, and we're gonna make a coffee table book. Yeah, no. Oh, it's over. Friends, that phone line is open now. 1-877-711-8500. Please call. Please step up and pledge here for the Station of the Cross. We've been here for 26 years. Here's the 26 years more. Just $1 a day. Can you do $1 a day? Would help us so much in reaching our goal. And not to mention that for every dollar you give, another dollar is automatically matched. So let's make this a very good and fruitful hour, not just in terms of the financials for the station, but certainly for the answering of your questions. 1-877-711-8500. We're going to kick off this hour, Father. Maria from Florida has this question. Conflicts often arise between personal conscience and societal rules. Father, how can we navigate these situations without compromising our integrity or sense of moral responsibility?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to have a clear sense of what conscience is. There's this idea that, well, conscience is that voice. And I said, well, if you're hearing voices, there's medication for that. Or conscience is, this is what I feel I really, 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 really want right now, and you're a hater or a bad whatever if you don't give me what I want, because conscience is a function of practical reason that says this thing over here is good, that thing over there is bad, that bad thing is forbidden me, and in this particular context, in this here and now, this good is something I am obliged to realize or strive for or attain. Now, conscience can be well-formed or poorly formed, and part of a good society is one that helps you to become a good person so that you can navigate on your own, applying universal moral principles to your particular here and now. And there's no substitute for family for doing that. And also, there is a role for the church as well. People invoke conscience as a kind of, shut up, he explained. And when I used to write a weekly column for Aletheia magazine, I wrote bunches and bunches of columns about it because nearly everybody gets it wrong. If you want a good handbook explanation of conscience, go to a book by Jesuit Austin Fagathay called Right and Reason. You want the second edition of that book. It lays it out for you recipe style. It's a really, really good book. Now, what about societal norms? Well, sometimes societal norms are good. Say please and thank you. Don't be a jerk. Keep your promises. Don't mess with other people's stuff. Don't be a porch pirate. Those are all very good things as well. And sometimes they're in conflict. When society says you should cheer because people can kill their unborn children, well, no, that's wrong. When society says, as society said in Ireland to the point where they put a high school teacher in prison, when a mentally ill child wants you to pretend that he is an opposite sex, you have to cooperate or else. And this Irish Catholic gentleman with his properly formed conscience said, no, I will not cooperate with that evil. So society can be a help or a harm in living a moral life, and we do have to follow our conscience, and the church has always stipulated that we have to have a well-formed conscience. We have to know what is true, good, and beautiful, and we have to have good habits developed to choose what is true, good, and beautiful, and find right and sound and morally just and good ways of attaining what is true, good, and beautiful. And along the way, there is going to be conflict. That's inevitable. But in any case, we want to avoid because conscience, and then do whatever the heck we want, or once, many years ago, I've since learned my lesson, I got involved in some online debate. It was about abortion. And someone put in all caps to me, well, look, Father, you just have to admit abortion is legal, get over it. And I said, you know what else used to be legal? Owning other people. And we learned how to not get over it, but to change it. Just because it's legal doesn't make it moral, because conscience doesn't make it moral either. We need to become morally mature people to take cues, for better, for worse, within our society, and sometimes we have to rebuke society because society is wrong, and we have to cultivate a properly formed conscience. And a really good litmus test is this: is my conscience properly formed? Is it in harmony with authentic Catholic moral teaching or not?
Friends, what if I could tell you sitting there right now, that you could win your very own trip, a pilgrimage, in fact, to Fatima and Lourdes? I've been very fortunate because I've been to the beautiful Lourdes of the Southwest. Shout out to Chimayo, New Mexico. But I got to tell you, I've never been yet to Fatima or Lourdes. I think my mom has. So that would be absolutely excellent. If you pledge at any level, you will be entered for a chance to win this fantastic pilgrimage to Fatima and Lourdes. The trip is going to take place from September the 1st to September the 10th. And again, any level will enter you in there. So I'm going to explain some of these giving tiers that we have. We have a $1 per dollar match this hour. Here's we try to reach our goal, and we definitely need your help to do it. At any level, all donors will receive 50% off of Tan books. Maybe you heard me say this a couple days ago, but I absolutely love Tan books. In fact, I would probably say half of my Catholic library is just Tan books right there, Tan. So thank you so much. I think that's such a cool thing for our listeners and viewers. And then I've been talking about just $1 a day, right? Our mission partner level. You're going to get a couple of things. Number one, you're going to get the Catholic's not the right word. The Catholic Church Has the Answers, a great, great booklet from Tan. It's all about kind of the answers we can find in the Catholic faith. And you're also going to receive a brown scapular of Our Lady from Mount Carmel. I am wearing one right now, actually. Been enrolled for a few years now. And you also will get your chance also to participate in a monthly online live chat with Father McTeigue. It's called Straight Answers with Father McTeigue, and that I think is going to be awesome. So essentially, if you want a more small setting, Ask a Priest Live, where you could also share your own thoughts and raise your questions at the same time, that is going to be absolutely excellent for you. $20 a month. $20 a month would be so tremendous for us, friends, and that is our sustainer level. You'll receive that brown scapular I talked about, as well, of course, as 50% all of Tan books, and you're in the chance to win the pilgrimage to Fatima and Lourdes at $50 a month. And by the way, if you're like me and I just kind of like to do things in lump sums because I'm a budget hawk and it's just kind of easier for me, you can also just donate all in one lump sum. That's totally fine too. That benefactor level is going to get you a very beautiful 2026 Catholic liturgical calendar. I have a liturgical calendar currently from the Institute of Christ the King, but this one is really good, and it might bump it, honestly, from my wall. We're going to see. And then, friends, if you want to really support at $100 a month, that's our Apostles Club, you're going to get this beautiful Lord Have Mercy, The Healing Power of Confession. It's a very great, very powerful book by the great Dr. Scott Hahn, as well as all of those previous described other gifts. So, friends, we're looking to have a really great goal this hour. Not to mention, it's a $1 per dollar match this hour. So if you go ahead and pledge $10, and we will put another $10 in, you pledge $1 bajillion, we will definitely get you to Fatima and Lourdes one way or the other. So please, friends, don't forget to call in. That phone line is wide open at 1-877-711-8500. Not to mention, you can also donate via the website, thestationofthecross.com, as well as using that donation tab in your iCatholic radio app. I got a couple people to thank. In fact, Gina from Needham, Massachusetts. Thank you, Gina, so much. $100, your one-time donation. That is very generous, and that is going to be matched $1 per dollar, so that is as good as $200. And then Rosemary from Dartmouth, Massachusetts. Y'all are standing up today. Thank you for your pledge, $50 one time, and I love your prayer intention. We definitely shall do. Prayers for family unity to follow our Lord. The whole world needs more Jesus, friends, not less. And that is part of our mission here at the Station of the Cross. We've been going strong for 26 years, and here's to 26 years more, but we're definitely going to need your help to do so. 1-877-711-8500. Let's talk to Leah from Minnesota. This is a question, Father, that I remember a friend of mine kind of asking back in high school. So Leah says she's having trouble understanding the concept of hell. How can we understand eternal separation in a way that encourages moral seriousness without fear-mongering?
I remember when I was teaching medical ethics, and I would explain about what actually happens to you when you take oral contraceptives, what actually happens to you and the child during an abortion, what dependency on latex will expose you to, et cetera, et cetera. And they would say, you're using scare tactics. And I said, well, I'm saying scary things that happen to be true. And if what I say is produce the evidence, but if what I say is false, produce the evidence, but if what I say is true, why hit me? Hell really is frightful. Look, we were made for love. We were made for truth, beauty, and goodness. And when St. Augustine said, Lord, our hearts are restless until they rest in thee, all our striving, all our yearning, our longing, our emptiness is oriented towards fulfillment in God. But if we live lives that make us in our final moments idolaters, who say, no, I don't want you to be God. I want anything else to be God, but not you. Not thy will be done, but my will be done. God's going to say, okay, that's your choice. And once we pass out of time and into eternity, we can't change. There's no do-over. There's no take-backsies once we enter into eternity. And so if we choose to use our freedom against what is true and good and beautiful, then that's what we will have. The not true, the not good, the not beautiful. In fact, if we set our whole soul, our whole being against what is true and good and beautiful, then being in the presence of infinite, perfect truth, beauty, and goodness will be unbearable to us. So how do we talk about death, judgment, heaven, and hell without resorting to ridiculous caricatures and tropes that the devil is this guy in red tights with a plastic pitchfork? How do we make him not a Walmart Halloween costume character? Well, the truth is our souls are being contested for, and we have an opportunity to choose the fullness of goodness or the absence of goodness. And the arena for that battle between good and evil is the here and now, our lives here on earth. Now, we have all suffered the consequences of making bad choices. Sadly, we've all suffered the consequences of other people making bad choices against us. We have all experienced the shock and horror and shame of realizing that we have betrayed love. Let's hope those experiences are so bad that we'll say never again. Jordan, I have a very great privilege on Friday afternoons. I have benediction with a very, very beautiful, noble, holy religious community. And when it's time for the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, they do a polyphonic rendition of the Tantum Ergo that turns me absolutely inside out. And it's done with the beauty that draws me not to the words or the singers, but what the words and the singers are pointing to, which of course is our Eucharistic Lord. And every Friday at 5:30, I want to throw myself on the ground before the Blessed Sacrament and just yell, I hate my sin till I pass out. I hope that inspiration, that vision, that elevation of mind and heart sticks with me every moment for the rest of my life, especially when a poor sinner like me is tempted to negotiate with his sin just one more time. Because what I've experienced already in the presence of our Eucharistic Lord in this life will be made available to me infinitely in eternity if I have the good choice to choose it now. And I believe if we present the four last things that way, people, please God, may have the good sense to turn away from sin.
Amen. Very well said, Father. Very well said indeed. Friends, our phone line's open. We definitely are asking for your support this hour at 1-877-511-5483. Looks like we have Oh my gosh. Thank you, James. You guys, I don't know if you saw that. That was autopilot. I keep forgetting for our fall drives, our number changes slightly. This is why you fired me, isn't it, James? I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm not trying to start beef. He did not fire me. He couldn't if he wanted to try. 1-877-711-8500. There. Whew, still got it. Anonymous from Buffalo, thank you so much, by the way. Your $80 one-time pledge. We very much appreciate that, Anonymous. And that also means that's $1 per dollar match, which means it's as good as 160. So, friends, we still have a long way to go for our hour. We have about $1,270 left to meet our goal this hour. But with your help and with God's grace, I know that we can reach it up. So please don't hesitate. Pick up that phone, 1-777-711-8500. Get your chance to have a great sit down with Father McTeigue. I'm so excited. I'm so curious when this starts. I think it's starting in November. That's right.
That's correct. November. Yeah, November.
Perfect. Straight answers with Father McTeigue. It's going to be a great online monthly live chat. So if you enjoy the setting, but you want to have a little bit more interaction, this is definitely what you want to do. And you can get that access, friends, for just $1 a day. They're at our mission partner level. So again, please call in 1-877-711-8500. Christopher from California has this question, Father, and I think what he's trying to say is Christopher is talking about how, with thinkers like St. Thomas Aquinas, they've shaped the moral philosophy for centuries. How can their reasons concerning, or rather their ideas concerning reason, ethics, natural law, for instance, help us tackle modern moral and political challenges?
But, St. Thomas Aquinas and, moral giants like them, Alphonsus Liguori, Bonaventure, Augustine, etc., they didn't make stuff up. They didn't say, I have this great idea about right and wrong. Let me tell you a story. No. They discovered, in a certain sense, Aquinas and the great moral thinkers of the church are simply cartographers of the real and the true, the good, and the beautiful. So they say, here's the map, here's the compass, here's the destination, and now we need to go forward. We need to get to where we're going. As someone once said, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how you get there. But I know from St. Ignatius Loyola that I was made for the praise, reverence, and service of God, and thereby to save my soul. And it's certainly true that I faced challenges in the 21st century that St. Ignatius Loyola could not have possibly imagined. And yet, human nature is the same. Now, I know that between 1962 and 1965 BCE, we had received infinite reminders of modern man requires this and modern man requires that, as if there was a new species of humanity that had just been discovered. That's simply not true. That's arrogant, and it's arrant nonsense. Human beings are human beings always and everywhere, and God is always God. So again, we go back to St. Ignatius Loyola, and he talked about the principal forms of temptation are variations of pride, riches, and honors. That hasn't changed. The shape of it, the dress of it, might be different in the 21st century than it was in the 16th century. But the liar, the serpent, has always been the same. God, our lover and beloved, is always the same. And human nature is always the same. And you know what? The moral thought of Augustine and Aquinas and Alphonsus Liguori led to the building of monasteries and cathedrals and saints and missionaries and very great art. And that's what I want for me, and that's what I want for the whole world. I used to live in London, and I used to go to the Tate Gallery in London, and there was the old wing and the new wing, and the old wing was all the great masters. And one of the things the great masters had in common was they were familiar with the Bible and with Greco-Roman culture. So they had great and perennial themes. And then you go over to the new wing where you had artists who didn't have that. And so you'd have someone drive a thumbtack into a railroad tie, and that was considered art. It was just gesticulations and plastics about nothing. Also puts me in mind, some years ago, I visited the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and I went to 3 exhibits. And the first was the classical Asian exhibit, mostly from China and Japan. And there were people really striving with all of their humanity to express perennial wisdom in works of art. And they were beautiful, but they were incomplete, they were imperfect, because they lacked Christ. And then you went to medieval Western art and Renaissance art, and it was absolutely glorious because it was produced from a culture that was steeped in Christ. And they had a temporary, mercifully temporary exhibit of 20th century pop art. And what you saw was a decorated corpse, the husk of Christendom, relabeled as the West, which had trace elements of what had once been a lively Christian faith and then forgotten, neglected, abandoned, or betrayed. And it was ugly and irrelevant and banal. So I would say that the classical moral thinkers from the church give us access to the perennial wisdom, and then it becomes our turn to live it in our here and now.
That's beautiful. Father, I was thinking, I had the great privilege of going to the Vatican museums a few years ago. And it's interesting to see pieces of art that I think have really shaped my faith. I've only seen in books and maybe movies, but finally you're there in front. And before you get to the Sistine Chapel, there was a moment where you kind of go down the stairs, and it was like a contemporary art exhibit, if you will. Bad art, I think bad art, not good, true, and beautiful, but also it was also the least populated part of the Vatican Museum. And it made the ascendancy of the beauty of the Sistine Chapel actually far greater, because you could just see the kind of the contrast, right? Art that does promote the good, the true, and the beautiful. Art, I think, that really does shape how we believe concerning our Lord and concerning the saints, and then art that kind of pulls us down to a sort of bistro level, right? And I've thought about that a lot, just when it comes to sacred art and what it does for the soul.
I just want to make 2 interjections, specifically about the Sistine Chapel, which I've been to a few times. Is absolutely sublime. You can build a civilization on that. And yet some rocket scientists a few years back decided it'd be a really great idea to have the band U2 do a rock concert there. And then I read a story a few years back that singer Justin Bieber got a private tour of what he described as the 16th Chapel. And he got bored during the exhibit and decided to play with a soccer ball in the Sistine Chapel till the Swiss guards threw him out. One of the works of civilization is to cultivate the moral imagination of its members so that it can perceive what is true and good and beautiful. And candidly, I think we're failing.
Yeah, I would think so too. But that is what we are here for, at least helping a little bit in our own way, friends. And that is what you, by listening and viewing, have also pledged to. You know, the reality is that there is a ton of moral decay. This is very, very obvious. And, you know, we have very small parts to play. By God's grace, we play them as we can. But it's through your help, through your support, through the staying on here of the station, that we're able to continue the good fight. There's a lot of programs here on the station. There's a lot of things that we do as an apostolate that just help us to engage the culture, right? And that's a very nebulous sort of term, but just very practically, here's a great example. I get that this coveted slot, 6 o'clock at the end of the workday, people are driving home, people are thinking about dinner. It's very difficult. There are plenty of other things that require your eyeballs and certainly require your attention. And so I've been very grateful for all of you who've listened to Ask a Priest Live for the past couple of years, who've gotten your questions answered. And to be honest, I mean, you kind of heard me say this a couple of days ago. You heard me say this when I was hosting the show regularly, but we have so many pages of emails. And I think that's very great in a way, because A, it keeps us, in business, but also I think that demonstrates that there's really a serious hunger for people to really uncover the things of God, right? If this was a show that came on and only 2 people had questions regarding the faith, I think that would feel very bad for us as Catholics. But the fact that there are so many of you, some of you who are very much engaged Catholics, been practicing all your life, some of you who are converts, some of you who haven't darkened the door of a church in decades, there are others of you who have called in, who have sent in questions, who aren't Catholic or maybe have no faith whatsoever. And yet I've just been very honored to sit in the host seat and allow our great priests to answer your questions. I've been very, very honored to be able to help facilitate as best I can kind of a conversations that I hope is leading to the reclamation of culture for Jesus Christ, not for our own glory. That's why we're asking for your support this week, friends. I mean, I can't make any ifs, ands, or buts about it. This show has been great to me. So many of our other programs have been so wonderful, I know, for a lot of you listeners and viewers. But we have an economic reality that we have to also live in. You know, it takes upkeep for the radio waves. It takes upkeep for the station. It takes upkeep to make sure that the lights stay on, that we can keep proclaiming the fullness of the truth. And we've been doing it unabashedly for 26 years. With your help, we need to get to more years. 100 years would be fine. So please, friends, we are doing a dollar per dollar match this hour. No matter what you give, an amount big or small, that amount will be matched. Our goal is $1,500 this hour. We are about halfway through the show here. By your grace, we have a long way to go, but through God's grace, I believe that we can get there. So please pick up the phone, be that change you seek, and help to support us at 1-877-711-8500. You can also donate on the website, thestationofthecross.com. As well, if you like to listen on your iCatholic radio app, maybe you don't have the radio waves in your part of the country or across the world, that's totally fine. Go ahead and hit that donation tab on the app. We very much appreciate that. Again, that call-in number, 1-877-711-8500. Let's talk to Matthew from Virginia. Matthew says this, concerning the evaluation of intentions versus the consequences, this can be tricky with moral decisions, Father. Therefore, how can someone weigh both responsibility and act in a way that aligns with virtue?
I would teach my students when I was teaching ethics that there are three significant components in moral evaluation. One is primary, and then the other are not. So the primary issue is the nature of the act itself. Some acts are intrinsically evil. Abortion, for example. There is no good intention that makes abortion okay. There is no circumstance that makes abortion okay. It is always and everywhere an intrinsic evil, never to be tolerated. Full stop. Now, we have to be aware of not only the nature of the act itself, we have to be aware of the intention of the agent, and we also have to be aware of the circumstances of the act itself. And now, the objective dimension of a moral evaluation is the nature of the act itself, and the subjective dimension is the status of the agent. For example, abortion is always and everywhere wrong. Let's say you have a 30-year-old married woman about to make partner in her law firm. She's got resources, she's got finances, she's got a stable marriage, and she also decides that being pregnant right now will impede her chances of making partner at a law firm. So she undergoes an abortion. Now, the act itself is intrinsically evil. The intention of making partner, that might be okay, but the means of attaining that at least morally neutral goal is an intrinsic evil, so that's not okay. And then the circumstances work against her because she made a cold, calculated decision to abort her child when all the other circumstances were in her favor. She was safe, she was married, she was financially secure. So not only is the action itself intrinsically evil, her level of blame is very, very high. Now, let's suppose, on the other hand, you have a tragic situation. An 11-year-old girl is brutalized by her father. She's impregnated, and her father says, if you tell anyone, I'm going to beat your mother and kill your puppy. So this poor child has been violated. She has been brutalized and terrorized. She can't possibly have given consent to any of this. Now, the action itself is, of course, intrinsically evil. The abortion is not okay. The intention is, from her point of view, is I want to save mom and my puppy. okay. And from a child's worldview, you can understand how that would make sense, but it doesn't make the action okay, and it doesn't diminish the tragedy. The father, of course, is a moral monster and a pervert. God is going to deal with him vigorously. And then the circumstances are, she's a child, she's being terrorized. So all of that is going to very greatly diminish her responsibility. I mean, she's a victim really as much as the unborn child is a victim as well. So here you've got two actions that are the same morally, intrinsic evils, but the degree of responsibility and blameworthiness is you've got it maximized in the case of the married woman and minimized and vitiated the terrorized child. So we need to keep these things in mind, because there are lies. There are people who say, well, you just have to judge by intentions. Ooh, you need to be really careful with that, because people can do monstrous things with really good intentions. Look at history, for example. Or, well, the circumstances make it okay. Well, for some things, maybe yes. But in this particular case, you're dealing with an intrinsic evil, so no. Now, some people say, look, as long as you're well-intentioned, all bets are off. That's just an excuse for moral mischief, and it leads to a lot of disasters. If it's moral circumstances, see, this goes back to Joseph Fletcher in the 1960s, with what was called the new ethics, or a situational ethics, that all that principle and good and evil and universals and obligations and prohibitions that the church and Augustine and Aquinas and Alphonsus Liguori talked about for all those centuries, according to the Anglican cleric Joseph Fletcher, all that was wrong, or at least it's not useful now. And so everything will depend upon the situation. And that's just a lazy form of relativism. And my dear friend, the late great Father Matthew Lamb, was studying in Rome in the 1960s when situational ethics became the hot thing. And I said to him, did anyone really think that would provide guidance? And he laughed and he said, no one was looking for guidance then. They were just looking for excuses. So let me make another distinction, which you can read about in detail in my book, Real Philosophy for Real People. You don't want a situational ethics, because that's just relativism. It all depends. I would tell students, if you're faithfully married and then you go to work and you notice that your secretary is really depressed and is going to need a very special kind of zesty love to lift the secretary out of depression, is your spouse going to be okay with that? Because, situation. And everyone said, heck no, exactly. So what we want is not a situational ethics, but a situated ethics, because to situ means seated. So we are all seated in a context and environment of time and place and circumstances. So, for example, if you say, hey, Junior needs to go to bed at 8 o'clock, otherwise he's grumpy in the morning and he doesn't do well at school the next day, and then as you're tucking him in at 8 o'clock and you have prayers and it's about to go lights out, and he says, oh, by the way, Mom and Dad, my best friend got shot at school today. I want to talk about it. If you say, no, the rule, 8 o'clock, lights out, we'll have to talk about your trauma tomorrow. Poor planning on your part. Well, that would be horrifying. In that situation, you make an exception. So part of the work of the virtue of prudence is to apply universal principles to particular situations, to find the right means to the right ends, and be alert to when it's okay to allow for exceptions. So ethics is a science. It's a body of knowledge derived from principles, but it's also an art. So there is the black and white fixed compass points of do good, avoid evil, love your kids, don't eat grandma. And there is the legitimate gray of how do we realize the good here and now. So in a moral evaluation, you want to be aware of the action itself, the intentions of the agent, the circumstances of the agent and the action, and be especially alert to the nature of the act itself. And that's why I say repeatedly that ethics is art and science. There are people who don't like the art and want to make everything required or forbidden. And then there are the people who don't want the science because they just want to get away with nonsense and mischief. And we say, no, no, no. As Catholics and as champions of natural law, we want to keep the art and science of ethics together.
Friends, you're listening to Ask a Priest Live. It's a very great week for a couple reasons. First and foremost, all week I've had Father Robert McTeigue on with me. Many of you love him from his great show, The Catholic Current, and I'm very honored that he is here on Ask a Priest Live. I'm also happy because I'm back this week, Jordan Pacheco, your host emeritus. This, just to kind of give a reminder for the chat, we're doing the show live for this old time slot, but of course, even this week, the new time slot is still in place. So I hope that you're getting your double dose of Ask a Priest Live today. And then next week, it'll still be live at 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. And this will be our slot for reruns of the previous show of that day. So I'm sorry that you won't see me as much, but I'm very honored that we are together here now. We have about 20 minutes of show left. Would you like to win a pilgrimage to Fatima and Lourdes? I certainly know that I would. And if you pledge at any level here in our fund drive, you will be entered for a chance to do just that. From September 1st to September 10th of next year, you may be able to go to some of the most storied sites in all of Christendom. So again, for a chance to win that pilgrimage to Fatima and Lourdes, we're asking for support at any level. It's $1 per dollar match this hour as well, friends. So if you go ahead and pledge $100, another $100 is unlocked for us automatically. That's so important to keep this show and all of our great programs going. So please don't be shy. Here in our last little bit of show, call in 1-877-711-8500. Even if you could do $1 a day, by the way, just $1 a day, you will get some really cool things, not just the chance to win the pilgrimage of Fatima and Lourdes, not just the Catholic Church has the answer, a great booklet by Tan Books. You'll even get an invite to Straight Answers with Father McTeigue. This is your kind of private Ask a Priest Live where you can feel yourself sitting across the table virtually as it would be from Father McTeigue, where you can share your own thoughts, raise your own questions, and of course receive wisdom from Father McTeigue. I think that's such a cool opportunity. We're going to be launching that in November. So again, just $1 a day gets you that access, friends. Call in at 1-877-711-8500 or donate using the iCatholic radio app or the website, thestationofthecross.com. Let's see, next on our list here, Olivia from New Mexico. My sister was once an Olivia in New Mexico, but now she's not there anymore. She's in Colorado. So this question I don't think is coming from her, but it's a big question. And we were talking about abortion with this last question, Father. So I do believe that this fits perfectly because Olivia has questions about personhood, particularly at the beginning and end of life. Since these are such hotly debated issues, how can we think about these issues in a way that respects human dignity and moral responsibility?
There is a way that people try to get out from under the abortion issue by saying, well, we don't deny that the product of conception is human. The real issue is person. You know, how do we know that the unborn is a person? And there's a couple easy ways to deal with this. But first, I want to point fingers at prominent Catholic members of the People Who Should Really Know Better Club, because there is something called delayed hominization or quickening. So when people like Augustine and Aquinas, especially Aquinas, using translated editions of some of Aristotle's speculation regarding embryology, that was the science back then. They said, look, the human child is certainly a deliberate act of creation, but we don't exactly know when the soul is present in the body. And that is a problem for us. So how do we know when the soul is fully there? Well, it's the time of quickening. That's why we get the phrase, the quick and the dead. And how do we know that the quickening has definitely taken place? Well, the first time the mother can feel the child move, that's when we know that the soul is there, and that's when it's a person. Now, very lazy politicians will say to their stupid staffs, go to Google and find some excuse for abortion. Go for it. And then so people who don't know what they're doing say, gosh, look at this. There's this quickening thing, and that's however many, 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is. That's going to be our window of excuse making for then it's okay because, and then we can even say it's a Catholic thing because Aquinas and Augustine. So no less a moral scholar than Nancy Pelosi has used that excuse, invoking Aquinas, and no less a patristic scholar than Senator Joe Biden, former presidential candidate, and some staffer put the word St. Augustine in his mouth. And I said, look, Joe Biden wouldn't know the difference between Thomas Aquinas and Thomas's English muffin, so I'm not really interested in what he has to say about anything at all. But if you really do your homework and you don't want to look for excuses and you want to know the truth, you will see that even when they use the defective embryology of Aristotle, there was never, ever a time in the church's moral teaching ever once that we said abortion is okay or abortion is only a mortal sin. And this goes back to the Didache, which was written right around the time of the making of the New Testament. So it is absolutely undeniable that the product of conception is always a human person and always a member of the human species. But let's pause for a moment and say, well, wait a minute, Father, what if we didn't really know for sure? Then what? Well, I'll use the analogy of going hunting. Let's say you and I are going hunting. There's a rustling in the woods. It might be a deer, and you shoulder your rifle. And I said, but we don't know for sure that it's a deer. It might be Farmer Smith. And if you say, that's right, Father, we don't know, that absolves me of moral responsibility, and you pull the trigger, I'm going to knock you out and take your gun away. You have to be absolutely morally certain, without any a judgment that you're willing to bring before God, that when you pull the trigger, you're aiming at a deer and not Father Smith. Likewise, if you have absolutely no idea, you are bereft of resource, there is absolutely no indication as to whether or not the child in the womb is a person at all, then don't pull the trigger. Because you're running the risk of murdering an innocent human being. So stop that. Also, let's be clear, from even a political point of view, well, quickening something, Augustine and Aquinas, something, we don't really know exactly when for the first trimester, so therefore. And I said, wait a minute, are you willing to forbid abortions for the rest of the pregnancy? Beyond the first trimester? No. Well, then stop it. You're just looking for excuses. So, and then as the church became aware of the much better science, we said, yeah, this is it. We don't have any doubt now. This is a distinctively human individual from conception at the level of the genes. So what we want to do is be aware of the motivation of people who want to make excuses for abortion. They're not scientists. They're not philosophers. They're not theologians. They're lazy, dishonest people who want to hide the crime of their sins against the sixth commandment. There are people who want to make money exploiting vulnerable people and trafficking in the blood of the innocent, and there are politicians who are willing to give protection to those people in exchange for votes. And what I find objectionable about the world we live in right now, Jordan, is that people who get hysterical about climate change and migration and matters of race and very many prudential matters, they suddenly become coy and silent and reticent when it comes to the literal life and death issue of abortion, where the church has an absolute unbroken record of clarity. We need to say this without shame and without hesitation, because God is watching.
I don't know, Father, because it seems to me like you can advocate for abortion for 40 years and you might even get an award from an archdiocese because of it.
Oh, that could never happen. Stop it, Jordan. You hater.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right. No. What do I know?
Yeah.
What do I know?
You're getting hysterical now, yeah.
Oh, dear. I know, right? You rad trad, Jordan. How dare you?
Yeah.
Oh man, only about 10 more minutes, a little over 10 more minutes of show left, friends. It has been, man, such a great time. Father McTeigue, I hope, by the way, you know that even when we're not on together and we're not doing an hour unstoppable without breaks, you are always welcome on to Ask a Priest Live anytime you want. If Rudy hasn't extended that invitation, I'll extend it for him, but I'm sure he has.
I will certainly remember that.
That's right. We can do Ask a Jesuit, and then finally all of our great black robe questions can finally be uncovered. Starting with, why did you guys get rid of the black robes? Those are great.
That would happen before my time. I take no responsibility for that.
That's okay. Then I can't blame you for it. I do suppose, Well, 1-877-711-8500. Friends, you can have your own low-key, I'll say, Ask a Priest Live with Father McTeigue. We're going to be launching a new venture in November. It's called Straight Answers with Father McTeigue, and this is your chance to kind of be almost sitting across the table from Father, where you can share your own thoughts and raise your own questions. Just $1 a day. Pledging at our mission partner level will get you access to this wonderful show. I think it's going to be absolutely wonderful, and we also very much appreciate all the pledges that you give here in our last 10 minutes of show, because we have a long way to go to still reach our goal of $1,500 this hour. We have over $1,200 to raise. By grace of God, it's possible to do, but we definitely are going to need your help. Again, just $1 a day goes so far, and there are so many things we appreciate about that, because we've been on the air for 26 years. That's a long time. That's a very difficult time for any Catholic apostolate, for any sort of business of any sort for that matter, and certainly when you're trying to spread the message of Jesus Christ. But we are, last time I checked, I think it was 97% listener funded. So listen, unless Elon Musk or Donald Trump or one of these great Catholics of the world wants to write us a check, we'll be very, very happy. But until then, friends, we're just going to need your support, pure and simple. That phone line is wide open, 1-877-711-8500, or you could donate using the website, thestationofthecross.com. Again, just $1 a day gets us so much further to our goal, and we're doing a $1 per dollar match this hour. So for every dollar you give, another $1 is unlocked for us. Again, that's 1-877-711-8500. Let's talk about angels and demons, Father, because we've been talking about evil this whole episode. Why stop here? Daniel from Missouri has this question. Angels and demons may seem symbolic, but do they have a role in understanding the struggle between good and evil? How can they inform us of our moral awareness in daily life?
Well, as a metaphysician, I always want to be very careful when we talk about something being merely a symbol, just as a scientist would be get his dander up if you talked about just a theory. And if you want to understand the relationship between sign, symbol, and sacraments, I wrote a book about that, Real Philosophy for Real People. There is a war going on, and it's fought at a variety of levels. We are fighting the war in time and space, and we are in the flesh. And then there is also a spiritual battle taking place behind the scenes, if you will. You know, when I was a student, I enjoyed studying the angels. It was like discovering a new species of reality, and you would talk about, how. What do the angels do? How do they know? How do they choose? If there were multiple species of angels, what would be the maximum number of angels per species? There really is an important answer to that question. It's a very significant question itself. But it was kind of at the level of abstraction in a way that really didn't hit at home. And then when I was in the novitiate, someone was passing around a novel, and it was written by a Protestant fellow whose theology was just really lame, fundamentalist, Bible thumping. Mm-hmm. And this was not great literature as well. I still remember the immortal line where he wrote, she hummed. That was a real thing. Ooh. But yet, visually, the guy was a genius, and he could set a scene in a way that would have well served C.S. Lewis in the Screw Tape Letter. So picture the scene. He's describing a woman sitting in her hotel room listening to gossip, and she's talking on the phone, and you can almost see with your mind's eye the camera is zooming in on her. And as the camera begins to draw back, you see a demon sitting on her shoulder. Mm-hmm. And he's got his index finger in her head, stirring her brain like he's stirring up soup. And then the demon looks up at you, talks into the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and says to the audience, "This one will believe anything." And that was 35 years ago, and it's still with me. Then when I got to studying theology, and I read especially the Desert Fathers and their great visions, and they would have visions of visiting a great city, and all the demons were just kind of kicking back, bored, because they said, we don't even have to tempt these people. They just throw themselves into sin after sin, and then their vision would go to a sound monastery, and there was this great siege warfare. The demons are throwing themselves at the monastery. The angels are fighting back, and the angels are aided by the prayer and fasting of the monks. So the moral of the story is we really are being contested for. It really is a contest of flesh and spirit, and it's also a battle where there are implacable enemies who don't get tired. And then we also have very great heroic allies who are willing to provide indispensable help on the condition that, number one, we ask for it, and then number two, we choose to accept it. So we are in a war, we are being contested for, we are hated, and I think we should act accordingly.
I think that is very, very good advice, Father. You're absolutely right. We are indeed in a war. What is the verse from Scripture? It speaks about how the devil prowls like a roaring lion or something.
From 1 Peter 5. Stay sober and alert. Your enemy prowls like a roaring lion, seeking whom he would devour. And then there's the whole Ephesians 6, putting on the armor of God as well.
Yes. Amen. Amen. And that is what we all need to do, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I know... I'll just say, what do we have? A few more minutes. So here, as we kind of get to our close of show, I just want to say one of the reasons I love our program here, Ask a Priest Live, is because I've said this before many times. No questions too big, no questions too small. We'll kind of take them on. But one thing that I've been very passionate about is just getting Catholics more equipped to deal with the world they live in. We have a lot of people who ask questions, listeners and viewers. So many of you send in these questions, right? Questions about how do I navigate when my family members get married outside the church? How do I navigate when I have a brother who's not just a non-practicing Catholic, but a rabid anti-Catholic? How do I navigate when there are these struggles that I'm having in my life and God doesn't seem present? And we don't shirk any of these. We don't run away from these really difficult questions and problems that people have, but we try to give you the fullness of the gospel and the fullness of the truth. For 2 years, we've been doing this on Ask a Priest Live. Our other shows have been going for way longer. We're still relatively new kid on the block, but I've just been very edified by that because obviously I think it's so wonderful because not only do I get to kind of see your own questions and hear the answers from our great priests, but I get to ask my own questions. I get to learn alongside you. And so this show has helped me hopefully love the Lord more, great sinner that I am. And Father, I love what you say at the end of oftentimes your endings, which is, please pray for me, a sinner, because I'm like, man, if this melancholic Jesuit priest is saying this, then what hope does sanguine Jordan have? You know, it's God still puts up with us. But friends, here we are. Our last few minutes here, we still have a long way to go to reach our goal. I want to thank, however, Simone from Niagara Falls, Ontario, the other side of the tracks. But Simone, thank you so much. Your pledge of $50 and a first-time donor to Simone. So we're so happy that you found the show edifying. We're so grateful for that pledge. And it's a dollar-to-dollar match. So Simone, that $50 is as good as $100. Simone, let me tell you some of the things that will get you. It will get you a chance to go to Fatima and Lourdes. We're doing a pilgrimage draw. Also, it will give you, Simone, a $50 discount on all tan books. So half of my Catholic library, I should really just film it tomorrow and let you all see, but half of it is tan books. I'm so fond of tan. Absolutely wonderful publisher of really serious, good, and Orthodox Catholic content. And that's for any level of donation. So we very much appreciate that. Friends, be the change that you seek. If Ask a Priest Live or The Catholic Current or many of our other great shows here at the Station of the Cross have reached you, have helped you love the Lord a little bit more, we're asking for that help to be shown at 1-877-711-8500. $50 like Simone pledged is as good as $100 because we're doing a dollar-for-dollar match this hour. And no matter what level you pledge, even $1 a day is so close to helping us keep the lights running and keep the radio waves on and projecting the message of Jesus Christ. By the way, don't forget that just $1 a day, that mission partner level, is going to also get you an opportunity with Father McTeigue, Straight Answers with Father McTeigue. It's a really wonderful show. Father, I want to know, have you been wanting to do a show like that for a while now, or did producer James sneak one up on you?
Well, I'm hard to sneak up on, and I'm hard to surprise. I mean, that's rare. You know, I'm aware of the fact that people are generous, and they want to know the truth. There is a hunger for that. They want Christ, and we live in a time that is confused and confusing. And I thought to myself, what can I do to help with that? You know, we all have to be good stewards of our time, our energy, our resources, our prayer life. And people have been so generous in supporting the work of the Catholic Current and the Station of the Cross. I said, I want to give back. I want to reciprocate. And I want to take advantage of another opportunity to point to Christ. You know, John the Baptist said, he must increase, I must decrease. I'm not doing this to promote my brand. God forbid. I wish people didn't know my face or my voice. I just want to write. But for the love of God and for the good of my neighbor, I'm making this time available.
Well, we're very grateful for the time you've made available today, Father. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. Before you go, will you please leave us with your blessing?
Through the intercession of St. Ignatius Loyola, may God's peace reign in your heart. May mighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Go in peace, and please pray for me, for I am a sinner.
Amen. God bless you, Father. Thank you so much. We'll be on together one more time tomorrow. Thank you for all of you listeners and viewers who have stepped up and pledged. Also, we very much appreciate that. And I've been having so much fun this week. I hate to go, but tomorrow is going to be my last day hosting in this slot. But nonetheless, I'm so grateful. So from all of us here at Ask a Priest Live, God bless you and may keep you. And we'll see y'all tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Take it easy.
This is Cy Kellett. Thank you for listening to the Station of the Cross.